Oh, there it is. Stop it. Fuck. Am I unmuted? Unmuted. I'm trying to just get the stream up really fast so that I can make sure and watch that the fucking shit doesn't go down or anything. Maybe one day I'll be able to find the fucking channel. Here we go. Lower the volume down. Normal pre-VOD stuff. Alright. So this is oh, this guy's got the jazzy. I was like, the fuck is that? Alright, so this is Lijang. This is Boop Space, so I'm hoping to see at least one environmental kill. I'm interested to see what your other support is going to be. Lucio, Moira. Let's wait until the end before we say anything about the composition. But again, in this wait time, the first thing that I would always be doing is looking at the composition and thinking about what playstyle is going to benefit you the most. Lucio has a lot of playstyles. Most characters have a lot of playstyles. So, you know, you have that same rushdown Ryan Zari that's been very popular throughout the duration of Overwatch as a whole. But this time, instead of having kind of poke DPS, you have Pharah, which is, I guess, technically a poke DPS. She's a spam damage character, so you just have to be aware that the Pharah is occasionally going to need some attention to be drifted upwards, so that you can maybe look at her to know when to be on healing specifically to pocket her, since she won't have any traditional sense of pocketing. But you can expect that your main focus is going to have to be the Ryan Zarya. Sombra's going to want to play split. Pharah's going to be in the sky, mostly living off of health packs and whatever AoE healing she drops into, but the Ryan and Zarya are largely going to be your responsibility. Now, once you've scouted the enemies, you're going to have to notice that they have 3 hit scan on their team, which means that when you're out in the open and when you're moving through unprotected sight lines, it's going to be very easy for them to find you and hit you. The advantage of hit scan over projectile is that they can, hit you instantly without having to predict where you're going to go, meaning that even crossing small spaces can be dangerous because projectiles can't necessarily do harm to you when you're crossing those small spaces in between cover, because they have to either predict it or get lucky. Both are things that can happen, but they're less likely to happen. So just, once you scout that, you should be aware of that. You should be actively thinking about the enemy team's composition when you see them. And sometimes this means getting to know a character on an intimate level, so that when you look at a McCree, you automatically know, okay, this is how I play around McCree. When you see McCree Widow, you know this is how I play around McCree Widow. When you see McCree Widow Honor, you're like, this is how I adjust again and again. So that's why sometimes one tricking is actually really good, because the characters have a lot of dynamics in the sense of learning about the different maps and learning about the different exchanges between different heroes and stuff. So let's get started based off that information. Speed boosting out of the gate is always a great thing. Gets your team to point a little bit faster, secure positioning, etc, etc. So from this point you should know that there's a Widow, because she's killed your Pharah. Okay, a little bit unlucky. You should really be using those speeds a little bit more decisively. You want to try to get in there, instantly swap to healing once you're stationary, disengages, use speed again. So something I would say for that fight is your awareness. I don't know if it's your headphones or if what your audio settings are like, but I could clearly hear that the Widow's was off to the right side and had a sight line that was behind the Rhine shield. I'm pretty sure at least that's what it was. I can't go into third person perspective or rewind, so I can't confirm that. But you seem to not react to the fact that your Moira got picked. Either in transition or to the fact that the Widow had you know, a different sight line. So far it seems that somehow you're doing almost the exact opposite of what you did in the Gibraltar game. In the Gibraltar game, you very much played kind of split from your team. Nice boost. I guess she hit her primary fire against the wall before she went down. In the Gibraltar game, you very much were playing slightly split from your team, and that might have been a kind of reflection of the map geometry and how your team was able to stabilize at the choke point. But if you notice, this is the first time that you've actually even dared to venture past the enemy Rhine shields, and dared to look for any frags. So Lucio actually has a decent one-shot combo where he can hit, if he hits a volley of headshots, or even some headshots, some body shots, he can boot melee. And while you're not going to do that perfectly every time, it's definitely good to try to get little wall rides over and around certain areas to try to execute people quickly and then maybe get back to your team. It can also be useful as Lucio to wall ride into the enemy team to boot people into your team. Sometimes closing the distance, like pushing the enemies into your team, can indicate to your team that that's like a prime kill, and it separates the enemy from their own team. So really it's just like a lack of playmaking. Like I said at the end of the last game, a lot of what you seem to be doing is the minimum of your job. Like, you're doing your job and nothing more. But in these games that you're losing them because you don't have the ability to make plays on your team or do anything for the team that is besides healing, when there are obviously lacking components to your kind of synergy and your teammates' abilities and etc, etc. People keep swapping too, so I'm sure that there's a lot of uncertainty of what to play and how to push into the enemies. Unlucky, unfortunate, a little bit maybe closer than you need to be. If you're in comms, especially in maps, or especially in like this map, it can be important to tell your teammates about different routes and stuff like that. A lot of people like to push down this main way, but taking the left-hand stairs to go top, or just pushing wide around to the right bottom side of this cafeteria area, can be a good way to kind of break through the enemy's defenses, because this is a brutal choke. And if the enemy teams can hold you here, they can often like pincer you in ways that makes it difficult for your shields to actually block all forms of damage and like protect you properly. And your composition has, you know, made it so that you can't really do too much, you know, defensively in terms of like shielding and protecting. The Roadhog is not going to do anything but provide threat for your team, so unless he's fragging, he's not going to be providing anything for you in terms of protection. So here, you're kind of just been idling this entire time, and you're still sitting in this room. Like, what are you trying to do? What do you want to do? There's a lot of waiting, maybe. And of course, again, I don't have comms, so I don't know if maybe you're trying, or I don't share your brain. So I can't really tell if you're trying to execute something, but if you're trying to do something here, you're doing it too slowly, and you're not really going about it in a way that makes the enemies react to you, or puts any pressure on them. Once you were getting pushed by the McCree, you definitely should have gone back to spawn. Just for a simple factor of there not being any cover anywhere near you. Um, and also because he hits those. The beat. Unfortunate. So the main thing throughout is just a large lack of kind of push or like playmaking or anything like that. As a support, it can get very monotonous in terms of like you do your job, you heal the enemy or you heal your allies, and then you maybe depending on who you are, do very specific things to influence the enemy. But sometimes it can take a little bit more to kind of push the enemy team and make it so that they have to respect your space. Something that you can do, what do you call it? To make it so that the enemies feel the kind of pressure that you're trying to put on them, is engage with beat early and stuff like that as Lucio. And honestly, I don't think that it's important to think about what maybe hero you could swap to resolve the situation, because I think sometimes swapping to a hero to resolve the situation is a little bit of a cop out, right? If you want to counter Genji, so you swap to Moira, you're not going to get any better at Zen, right? Your Zen's always going to stay whatever elo it was in before. Let's say if you're a mid gold Zen, if you swap to Moira, sure, you may be a platinum Moira because you're playing against the Genji, but you're still just going to be a mid-silver Zen. So the real purpose of all of this is to get better, right? So if you want to get better at Lucio, you're going to have to look at these situations where you're required to do more than just heal, required to do more than just drop beat to counter his ultimates. You're required to pressure the enemy, do things to make them turn around. Maybe, you look at ways you can maneuver around the map that you could get into spaces where the enemy doesn't want you to be, that makes them uncomfortable, right? You're on PC, so it's very easy for a McCree to kind of like 180 flashbang you and then potentially hit a headshot, but that's why you have to come from behind him and put the pressure before he knows you're there. You have to do it quickly and as cleanly as you can, you know? You don't want to get behind him and then kind of sit there for a second and he's like, hey, I hear Lucio noises, and then turns around and sees you, you know? You want to get there, and as soon as you get there, you want to almost instantly try to shoot him and then, hit him with the boot melee. And then if that doesn't eliminate him, you probably want to leave as long as he still has flashbang. And these rules apply in certain ways to every hero, right? If, let's say, take for instance the composition that they had, if you come up behind a Widow, you don't want to risk her getting that highlight clip 180 headshot unless you really, really think that your life is worth trading for hers. Or same with Ana, you don't want her to sleep you or get you caught out with an anti, because at the end of the day, trading doesn't necessarily mean value. Trading is a net zero. There's nothing you did there that was good, or bad. It was just a neutral play, So that's all I have for this one, and after you watch this one, I'll put a, all right, bye.